JB Pritzker signs the medical aid in dying law. This allows some terminally ill patients to use medications to end their lives. Miriam Niesmeyer spoke with the Winnebago County coroner about their concerns around Deb's law and people who support the legislation.
Illinois is the first Midwest state to allow medical aid in dying after Governor Pritzker signed Senate Bill 1950 into law on Friday. Kadeen Bennett with the ACLU of Illinois is an advocate for the legislation.
And we believe this is an issue of bodily autonomy. We believe people should have the ability to make decisions about their lives, including their health care throughout their lives. That also includes people who are terminal.
Deb's law allows terminally ill adults to request life-ending medication, but only after meeting strict medical and mental health requirements.
We know that it doesn't matter what party you are, religion, none of those things matter. When people are terminal, they want all of the available options available to them.
But not everyone agrees. In a statement provided by OSF Healthcare, it expressed they are saddened by the decision. As a Catholic health ministry, OSF is guided by honoring the dignity of every human person, and we will not participate in or support any form of physician-assisted suicide. Winnebago County Coroner Jennifer Moraski says she worries about how deaths would be reviewed.
At some point, this is going to cross a coroner's desk to have to answer those questions, cause and manner, as it regards to this bill. How do we answer those questions and still uphold our oath?
Funeral professionals say it's important to have an end-of-life conversation ahead of time.
It helps their survivors because sometimes it's the only time you know what they really wanted. And it's very cleansing for the person that's doing it, too.
In the state line, Miriam Niesmeyer, WIFR News.
The law is set to take effect in September 2026 to give healthcare providers and the Illinois Department of Public Health time to develop the necessary procedures and protections in the law. Snow